Engine 152. She was supposed to have been moved Sunday from River Road to her new home at the Railway Museum on LaGrange Road, but the move was delayed because of a problem with the cylinder. Well, today they tried to move her again, and Pia Cummings tells us what happened.
For the first time in 28 years, L&N Engine 152 let off some steam. She was ready for the move to her new home at the Railway Museum, but a problem with the air compressor caused an hour delay. She made it across River Road, then another 2-hour wait while 6 cars were attached. Train buffs of all ages were patient.
All around the water tank, waiting for a train.
Oh, I wanted to see that steam engine. I've been waiting like 6 years to see one in action.
1,000 miles away from home, sleeping in the rain.
Finally, you could hear the train a-comin'. For the first leg of the trip, she was pulled by a modern engine.
It was worth the wait. I'm retired. I don't have nothing but time, so it was well worth the wait.
At Preston and River Road, it was slow going. The track had to be greased because steam engine wheels are rigid, making sharp curves tricky. At the switching tracks, the lead engine said goodbye, and 152 was on her own.
Oh, it's great. There's nothing better riding than the steam engine. My philosophy, and a lot of old railroaders have this philosophy, if we wanted to solve the unemployment problem in the United States, you put steam engines back on the railroad. There'll be a job for every soul in the United States.
Kruger and 20 others spent the last 12 years restoring the engine from the wheels up.
And it's a real labor of love. That's what this was. And none of us get paid anything. We're volunteers, and we love what we're doing. You have to love railroading and do it.
Tomorrow, Engine 152 takes a trial run to Lexington to prepare for 4 public excursions next month. At 80 years old, she is starting a new life. On LaGrange Road, Pia Cummings, Wave TV News.
52 chugged off to a new home and a new life today. Volunteers cheered, and they're entitled. They've worked more than a decade for today's move from a lonely track on River Road. Chuck Olmstead was there.
They put old Engine 152 out to pasture back in 1957, and the then L&N Railroad gave it to the Kentucky Railway Museum. But there's no such thing as retirement for Carl Kruger and lots of volunteers who quietly spent the past 12 years bringing this old steam locomotive slowly back to life. For many in the crowd, it was a time to think back to younger times and occasionally act a bit younger too, like this federal judge who cleared his court docket and played hooky from court just to be on hand.
This is a great occasion. I don't mind playing hooky, and I hope nobody will hold it against me.
And there was a Pullman porter who rode on 152 back in the 40s and got a bit misty watching her get up steam again today.
I'm still a boy at heart because I get great joy. When I saw that thing fire up the other day, tears came in my eyes.
For all those who gathered to see if old 152 could live again, the answer came shortly before noon. The 80-year-old locomotive got a helping hand from a friendly diesel, and then it was on its own. Well-wishers stood along the tracks as the locomotive that once carried Teddy Roosevelt around the country and mobster Al Capone to prison made its way through Crescent Hill and St. Matthews to the Railway Museum in Linden, where there's plans for excursion trips to Lexington next month.
You ready to start work on another locomotive?
Well, let me put it this way. I wouldn't do it again for $1 million, but I wouldn't have missed it for $1 million.
Chuck Olmstead, Action 11 News in Linden.
Everybody needs to ride a train.
And it looks like new. They did a beautiful job on that thing.
Locomotive number 152 huffed and puffed its way from River Road to the Kentucky Railroad Museum today. There were some problems early this morning with the air compressor, but they were overcome. The locomotive has been trying since Sunday to make the move to its new location, but has actually been in the renovation process for 12 years. Today was an important moment for everyone.
All the butterflies in the summer flying in formation. Yesterday when we derailed out here 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they sort of went fluttering around, but it didn't take us long to get it back on the rails, and we just spent the evening making what necessary repairs, and we're right back out here again. So It's like an expectant father. You just don't know what's going to happen next.
The huge relic was built in 1905 and is the oldest Pacific-type steam locomotive still in existence. The engine will be used on 4 scenic excursions to Lexington in October.
Looks beautiful. I love those trains.
They were happy to get that done.
After more than 12 years of restoration by museum members, 152 will take a trial run tomorrow to Lexington, preparing for public excursions beginning next month.
That sound is just about gone from the American landscape. It's the sound of an old steam engine going uphill. But we're hearing it here on this ride of Old 152 down towards the river for the great steamboat race. I am aboard a rolling National Historic Place. It's a place that doesn't stay in one place very long, but it's the old steam locomotive. There's some kids. Hi, kids. They're watching us. This is the old steam locomotive restored by the Kentucky Railway Museum, and it's people like Elmer Vogel down here who did all this work. Elmer, what kind of work did you folks do?
Well, we took this engine down from all the way down to the wheels and restored it, rebuilt it from scratch. It took about 13 of us to do this over a 13-year period.
Well, you're obviously dedicated buffs, right?
Oh, we are a bunch of volunteers that love railroading. Yes, sir.
Now, tell me a little bit about what we're riding on. What is this old locomotive about?
All right, this is a 1905 steam locomotive that was built by the Rogers Locomotive Works. And this engine carries 200-pound steam pressure. It's hand-fired, coal-fired, and the tender that you're sitting on carries 25 ton of coal and 10,000 gallons of water to make this whole thing possible, make it work.
So this is the old way of doing things. I wonder if we can get a shot of some of that coal going in the box here.
Okay, what?
Wait till you see this. There's some serious fire in there, and that's what.
White hot fire.
That's heating up the water, and that's driving the wheels, right?
Yes, sir.
It must make you very sad to know that this kind of locomotion doesn't exist anymore.
That is correct. And what makes us sadder than ever is that we're going to have to move away from here. So the county government wants the land here, so we're going to have to move, and we hope we can find a new home.
Well, we'll be following that story, but for today at least, we're going to be following the story of how old 152 gets down to the river to watch the great steamboat race. About 600 people are on board this train, and they've all paid how much, Elmer?
These people pay $15.
$15, which is in the old days of the heyday of this locomotive, that would have got you cross country probably. But they're heading for the river, and so are we, and we'll bring you up to date. I'm Barry Burnson for Steamboat Race 25.
The short trip across the museum's property is free with admission to the museum, and it's popular, but not nearly as popular as the longer excursions offered on the locomotive. In fact, these cross-country trips provide a majority of the museum's income. But that income and those excursions will soon be ending. Museum operators say liability insurance rates have made it impossible to continue the longer trips.
A separate rider. It is up to $5 million now, and we understand that next year our insurance rates are going to go up to $25 million liability. And this is going to be a problem for us.
And this train has been maintained very well. In fact, the 152 steam engine at the Kentucky Railway Museum took 13 painstaking years to rebuild.
A lot of hard, hot, heavy work. We had to build everything, make all the bolts. Very few parts we could buy.
The locomotive was the star attraction today as people waited in line to board. They sat tight as the train backed up on the hand-laid track, and then they were off. Up the track for a short but enjoyable ride.
It's fun. It's the first time I've ever been out here. Where I work at, one of the ladies' husband volunteers out here an awful lot, and she suggested I bring my son out here, and he never had been out here before.
It takes a lot of work to keep steam power in the train. Engineers say it has given them unwavering respect for those who operated the machines during their heyday.
Those guys were men, especially the guys that fired. It's hand-fired, and we get about 12 miles per ton of coal, so that's a lot of shoveling.
Louisville will be losing this antique train within the next 5 years because the county has plans to develop the land. Until then, train lovers can experience this classic during holiday weekends. Adina Chumley, Action 11 News.
It's a place for families to travel back in time. A ride aboard old L&N steam locomotive 152 at the Kentucky Railway Museum. On this holiday, parents bring their children to share an experience that for us in this area is now history, the passenger train.
He's ridden the train at the Louisville Zoo, and he really liked that. And when he saw this, he said, oh, I want to ride the big train.
Although the Railway Museum remains a popular attraction here in eastern Jefferson County, it has 5 years to find a new location. Jefferson County government is going to turn this land into an office park.
Kentucky Railway Museum moved around the tracks for the last time in Jefferson County this afternoon. Old L&N engine 152 and the rest of the museum moved to New Haven, Kentucky next month, but not without taking admirers for one last trip into history. Action 11 photojournalist Brian Derby takes us along for the ride.
When this engine was built in 1905, there wasn't any cars hardly. So they pulled the trains that held the people that traveled. Carry 19 ton of coal and 10,000 gallon of water. And we shovel the coal into the car box, heat the water, boils the water, and then we have the throttle. This is the throttle that makes it go. When you're out on the main line running, it's really a thrill when you don't have to stop, in a short distance.
And the Railway Museum will stay open near Linden at its site in eastern Jefferson County through June 17th. However, the steam engine will remain idle. The museum's engines, cars, and cabooses move to their new homes in New Haven on June 24th.
The museum is taking its 18 cars down the tracks to New Haven. Lisa Robinson was at the museum today.
For the last 12 years, steam engines and old passenger cars at the Kentucky Railway Museum whistled and roared and delighted train lovers. Despite the fact that business was doing good, about 70 visitors a day, the museum is moving to New Haven. Jefferson County wants to make the area an office park, and the museum's operators don't mind moving. They'll have 17 miles of track in their new home, compared to 1.5 here.
Our track speed will be about 20 to 25 miles an hour in New Haven, as opposed to about 10 here.
Regulars at the museum say they will miss it.
We're really sorry to see it moving. With this being the home of the L&N Railroad, we just really wish that the county officials had seen fit to allow them to stay here and put a little more support into it.
Because they're neat, and I learned a lot about them.
I was the engineer on the first revenue run, the first passenger hauling run we had here in May of 1978, and I guess I'll run the last one tomorrow. My eyes may not be real dry, but at least I'll make the last run we'll ever have out here.
All next week, the museum's workers, who are mostly volunteers, will be getting the trains ready for their 50-mile journey to New Haven, a trip that could take up to 3 hours. Lisa Robinson, Wave 3 News.
In tonight's Kentuckiana Treasures, Joe Orlando shares the story of a local man who has spent the better part of his life on the railroad and reminisces about the changes.
Every day except Monday, passengers board the Kentucky Railway Museum train that runs from New Haven to Boston.
All aboard.
There we go.
65-year-old Paul Denny is manning the controls.
My father was a locomotive crane engineer for 46 years for the L&N Railroad. And when I was 22 months old, we went on the camp cars.
Paul Paul started working for the L&N Railroad in 1942, hooked up with the Railway Museum in the early 70s, retired 3 years ago, but just couldn't stay away. He's seen plenty in his travels through the countryside in LaRue and Nelson counties.
That bridge down the end of it one morning to come through.
This veteran of 50 years has operated trains with more cars, but he now enjoys pulling this 500-ton unit that's a 1948 BL2 model, one of only 2 in the country still running excursions.
Well, that's the name of the game with us, so people can see what railroading and passenger trains is about.
Paul, like others who grew up with passenger trains, worries about the future and what effect it'll have on railroading.
I don't believe it'll ever be back like it was. It couldn't be like it was in World War II and in the 60s, 70s there, because it has slipped away so much.
Paul tried to retire, but he says he just couldn't walk away from the trains that have been so much a part of his life. And I think he missed the scenic countryside that slowly passes by as well. From aboard the Kentucky Railroad Museum train, Joe Orlando, Channel 32 News.
This month on Main Street, the subject is trains. We're going to look at the death of a railway station, the resurrection of an old steam engine, and we're going to take a ride with some enthusiastic passengers.
Hey, Slim, did you lose a book back there where you're standing? I don't know whose that is. Dirty pictures in it? Got dirty pictures in it?
I think it's a train book.
Oh, okay.
No dirty pictures.
Real dirty. Dirty train.